In the beginning of time, when the sky and the earth did not yet exist, when vast darkness enveloped everything and the silence of the void resonated in eternity, the ancient Babylonian creation poem, the Enûma Elish, emerged. Within its verses lie the secrets of the primordial gods, their titanic struggles, and the mysteries of the cosmos's formation. Imagine a world where chaos swirls in a whirlwind of potential, where the primeval waters of Apsû and Tiamat intertwine in an eternal dance, nurturing in their womb the seed of existence. Close your eyes and let the ancient words transport you to an era of myths and legends, where Marduk, the hero, rises to face unimaginable forces, defying the fury of sea dragons and forging order out of disorder. In the depths of this epic, each verse resonates with the power of creation and destruction, painting a canvas of light and shadow, of gods and monsters. This is not merely a tale of times past. It is a portal to the unknown, a journey to the heart of the beliefs that shaped the ancient world. Listen closely, for the words of the Enûma Elish not only narrate the creation of the universe, but also reveal the very essence of humanity and its place in the vast and mysterious cosmos. Allow the echoes of this ancestral narrative to envelop you, and prepare to uncover the enigmas that lie within the verses of the Babylonian creation poem. First tablet, when above the sky had not yet been named, and below the firm ground had not yet been mentioned by a name, only Apsû or his progenitor and the mother Tiamat, the generatrix of all, were mixing their waters together. Reedbed had not yet formed, nor marshland been seen, when gods had not yet appeared, nor been called by a name, nor any destiny fixed. The gods were procreated within them. Lachmu and Lahamu appeared, and were named before they grew in age and strength. In the heart of Apsû they were created. They multiplied in years, exceeding those days. Thereupon, a son equal to his father's was not born. Just as I have striven to bring into being, my firstborn son, my equal, was procreated to be his image. Nudimmud, the father of their mighty ones, was intelligent and wise. He was also the overlord of his fathers. He was vastly superior to Ansar in power, the creator of his father, without a rival among the gods, his brothers. These brother gods united among themselves and disturbed Tiamat as they surged, for they troubled Tiamat in her heart with their uproar. They caused turmoil in the heavens above. Apsû could not diminish their clamor, and Tiamat remained impassive before them. Their actions were displeasing, and their conduct was not good, but she forgave them. Then Apsû, the creator of the great gods, called for Mummu, his messenger, and said, "O Mummu, my messenger, who gladdens my heart, come and present ourselves to Tiamat." They went, and, seated in the presence of Tiamat, they conversed and discussed about the gods, their firstborn sons. Anshar opened his mouth, raised his voice, and said to Tiamat, "I find their behavior detestable. Day and night I find no rest. I am going to eradicate. I will abolish their activity, so that silence is restored and we may sleep." When Tiamat heard these words, she became furious. She raged against her husband, mounting in anger. She bitterly reproached him. "Why have you conceived evil in your spirit? Why do you desire to destroy all that we have made? Their behavior is very detestable. Let us be patient. Let us be benevolent." Then she herself answered to counsel Anshar, and the advice of her heart was that of a counselor without benevolence. "Father, endeavor to destroy their unruly behavior so that you may rest day and night." When Anshar heard these words, he rejoiced. His countenance shone brightly because of the evil that he had planned against the gods, his sons. Thereupon he encircled with his arm the neck of Mummu, who sat on his knees, and kissed him. All that they had planned in their assembly was repeated to the gods, their firstborn sons. When the gods heard these things, they became nervous. They kept silent and remained mute. However, the most intelligent, wise, capable, and knowledgeable of all things conceived a plan. He planned and devised a scheme against them. Skillfully he balanced his most outstanding enchantment against him. He recited it to him, and with a potion he provoked him to sleep. He slept deeply and was profoundly asleep. When Apsû had slept and was overcome by sleep, And Mimi, the counselor, was too confused to keep watch. He released his band and took his crown. He stripped him of his divine radiance and put it on himself. After chaining Apsû, he killed Mummu. He closed the door and bolted it. Then he established his dwelling upon Apsû and seized Mummu, binding him with a rope. After immobilizing and defeating his enemies, having secured victory over his rivals, he rested in profound peace. He named his chamber Apsû and marked it with halls of ceremony. Aidan and Quinn, his spouse, resided there splendidly in the chamber of fate, the abode of destinies. Marduk, the most powerful and wise god, was engendered in the heart of Apsû, and in the heart of the holy Anshar, Marduk was created. He who created him was his father. She who conceived him was Damkina, his mother. The breast of the goddess gave him milk. The nurse who raised him filled his chest with terror. His figure was alluring and brilliant. The elevation of his eyes was lordly. Dominant from ancient times when she saw him, the father who begot him exulted and showed himself radiant, filling his heart with joy. He made him perfect and endowed him with a double divine head. When greatly exalted, he was far above them. His limbs were exceedingly perfect, not suitable for understanding and difficult to perceive. 4 were his eyes and 4 his ears. When he moved his lips, a fire blazed forth. Great were the 4 organs of hearing, and the eyes, equal in number, scrutinized all things. He was the loftiest of the gods, surpassing them in stature. His limbs were enormous, of exceptional size. My son, my son, my son, the sun of the heavens, clothed with the aura of 10 gods, was exceedingly strong. When his terrifying flashes of lightning gathered over the deep, he engendered the 4 winds to restrain the leader of the hordes, to disturb Tiamat. These brothers, having schemed evil against Tiamat, said, "When you killed Apsû, your spouse, you did not assist him, but you remained silent. However, the model, the dreadful, saw your entrails have been dissolved, and thus we cannot rest. That Apsû, your spouse, is in your heart, remembering him, and Mummu, who has been defeated. You have been left alone, you pace around hurriedly without ceasing. You do not love us, your eyes have been clouded without ceasing. That we may rest in battle, come and throw them like the wind when I loved you." These words pleased you. "Let us make monsters and the gods in the midst of battle, and against the gods they piled up and walked alongside you, are furious, cavil without ceasing. Night and day they are prepared for battle, growling and furious. Form a council to prepare for battle." The Mother Yoga, who shapes all things, accumulated weapons without rivals, giving birth to monsters, serpents with sharp teeth, with ruthless claws, filled their bodies with poison instead of blood. She adorned the fearsome dragons with crowns, making them like gods so that anyone who beholds them is annihilated with horror, and when their bodies rise up, no one can reject them. She brought forth serpents, dragons, and Laham storm monsters, furious dogs, and scorpion men, powerful lion demons, flying dragons, and the centaur who bears ruthless weapons, unafraid of battle. Mighty are her commands, without being able to resist. In total, she created 11 monsters of this kind from among the gods. Their progenitors who constitute their assembly, she exalted Chingu and made him their leader to go first before the army, to lead the troop, to carry the weapons, and unleash the attack, bearing supreme command in battle. She entrusted them into his hands when she made him sit in the assembly. I have spoken in your favor, the spell exalting you in the assembly of the gods, and I have given you all power to lead all the gods. You are magnificent, my only spouse. It is you who have united them to exalt your name above all of them. She gave him the tablets of destiny and tied them around her neck. As for you, your command will not change. The word of your mouth will remain as long as Pingu was exalted. He acquired the dignity of Anu among the gods. His children decreed his destiny. Your word will extinguish the fire. The strong in battle will increase your strength. Tablet 2a, when he finished his work, he prepared for battle against the gods, his offspring, to avenge Apsû and Amad Makino, the evil one. When she was equipped for battle, she announced it to her when she heard this. She was sad and silent and sat silently after long meditation. Her anger calmed her father and left when he arrived in front of his progenitor Ansar. Everything you love has plotted against him. He announced it to my father. You love the one who gave birth to us, and she hates us. She has gathered the assembly and is terribly angry. All the gods have joined her, even those who have created her. They are with her, they come together and walk alongside Tiamat. They are furious and conspire without ceasing. Night and day they prepare for battle, growling furiously. They have formed a council to prepare for battle. The Mother Yoga, who shapes all things, has accumulated unmatched weapons, given birth to monsters, serpents with sharp teeth, with ruthless claws, filled their bodies with poison instead of blood. She adorned the fearsome dragons with a crown, making them like gods, so that anyone who beholds them is annihilated with horror. And when their bodies rise up, no one can reject them. She has aroused the serpents, the dragons, and the lion, the great lions, the furious dogs and the scorpion men, the powerful lion demons, the flying dragons, the centaur who carries ruthless weapons, which is not afraid in battle. Firm are its orders without being able to resist. In total, she created 11 monsters of this kind among the gods, their firstborns who constitute the assembly. She exalted Chingu and made him chief among them to lead the army and command the troops, to carry the weapons into battle, advancing to the fight to have the leadership in combat. She entrusted them into his hand and made them sit in council. I have spoken the incantation in your favor, exalting you in the assembly of the gods, and I have given you full powers in the council of the gods. Truly you are the supreme, my only spouse. It is you who in your exaltation will dominate them all. She handed him the tablets of destiny and tied them around his neck. And as for you, your command will not change, and your word will remain. As soon as Chingu was exalted, he acquired the dignity of Anu among the gods. His brothers decreed his fate. Your word will extinguish the fire, humiliate the powerful weapon. When Anshar heard Tiamat's words, he was greatly disturbed. He struck his hips and bit his lips. His heart was sad, without resting in his bearing. He covered his mouth to stifle his outcry. The weapons you have made, raise them up and go forth. Act now, kill Chingu who walks before her, replied the counselor of the gods. We did not give notice to Anu. And Jo directed a word. This most powerful of heroes, whose strength cannot be resisted, go and stand before Tiamat so that her mood calms down and her heart dilates. If she does not listen to your word, tell her our word, so that she may calm down. When Anshar, my father, went straight on his way, following her route, but when Anu came to see Tiamat's plan, he had no strength to confront her, and turned back to his father. Anshar, like the day, he said, my hand is not enough to make you submit. Anshar was speechless when he was shaken on the ground, bound, and moving his head towards her. All the announcements gathered in this place, their lips tightly closed. They sat silently. No god thought they could go to war and confront Tiamat to escape alive. Lord Anshar, father of the gods, rose with greatness, and having reflected in his heart, said to the assembly, He whose strength is mighty shall be our avenger, he who is cunning in battle, Marduk the hero. She called Marduk to her place of seclusion and gave him advice, saying what was in her heart. O Doche, listen to my advice. Listen to your father, because you are my son. Who confronts my heart when you are in front of Anshar, approach as if you were fighting, stand when you speak to him. He will be calmer when he sees you. The Lord was glad with his father's word and approached, being in front of Anshar when Anshar saw him. His heart filled with joy, the weight of his lips, and dissipated his sadness. Anshar, do not be silent, open your lips widely. I am going to get the desire of your heart, Anshar. Do not be silent. Open your lips widely. I am going to get what your heart desires. Who is the man who has forced his fight against you? This is a woman who opposes you with weapons. O my father, creator, be happy and content. The neck of Tiamat you will soon step on. My father, creator, be happy and content. The neck of the day more you will soon step on. My son, you who know all wisdom, calm down Tiamat with your holy charm. Advance at full speed in the chariot. Storm his presence. They will not push you back. Return them. The Lord was glad with his father's word, and with his exultant heart said to his father, Creator of the gods, destiny of the great gods. If I really like your avenger, I am going to win the call to save their lives. Call the assembly and proclaim my destiny as supreme. When together their queener has been set, happy that my word in place of yours determines the destinies, and it will be unalterable. What I am going to determine will not be revoked or change the mandate of my lips. Tablet 3. Anshar opened his mouth and grabbed his messenger, directed this word smothered. The messenger who rejoices my heart to the CMVM and the Jamin I am going to send you, you know with discernment and are expert in pleasant words, the gods, your parents, raised you before me, that all the gods advance here, that they hold conversations and sit down for a banquet. Let them eat festive bread and drink wine, and let them set the decrees in favor of Marduk, their avenger. Follow your path, Gaga, present yourself before them, and repeat only to them what I am about to tell you. Anshar, your son, has sent me here, entrusting me to convey the dictates of his heart, saying, Tiamat, who created us, hates us. She has called the assembly and is furious and enraged. All the gods have joined her, and even those you have created walk by her side. They gather and walk beside her, furious, conspiring incessantly night and day. They prepare for battle, growling and enraged. They have formed a council to prepare for the fight. Mother Huber, who shapes all things, has accumulated unmatched weapons, giving birth to monsters, serpents with sharp teeth and ruthless claws. She has filled their bodies with venom instead of blood, and she has adorned the terrifying dragons with an aura, making them equal to the gods, so that whoever beholds them perishes in fear. And when their bodies rise, no one can turn them back. She has caused the serpents, the monstrous reptiles, and the lamu, the great lions, the rabid dogs, and the scorpion men, the powerful lion demons, the flying dragons, and the centaur, all bearing ruthless weapons that do not fear combat. Firm are their decrees, unstoppable. In total, she has created 11 monsters of this kind among the gods, her firstborn who form her assembly. She has exalted Chingu and made him chief among them to lead the troops, to be the head of the army, to carry the weapons into battle, advancing towards the fight to have the supremacy in combat. She entrusted them into his hands when she made him sit in council. I have pronounced the incantation in your favor, exalting you in the assembly of the gods. I have given you full powers in the council of all the gods. Truly, you are the supreme, my only spouse. It is you whose exaltation prevails over all the Anunnaki. She has handed him the tablets of destiny and fastened them to his chest. As for you, your command will not change, and your word will be lasting. As soon as Chingu was exalted, he was made equal to Anu among the gods, his children, and he fixed the destinies. Your word will extinguish the fire and humble the mighty weapon so powerful in its display. I sent Anu, but he could not confront her. He returned mute and speechless, terrified, and turned back. Then Marduk, the wisest of the gods, your son, stepped forward because his heart had urged him to confront Tiamat. He opened his mouth and said to me, If I am truly to be your avenger and to defeat Tiamat and save your lives, call an assembly and proclaim my destiny as chief. When you sit together joyfully, let my word determine the destinies instead of yours. Whatever I do, let it not change, let it not be revoked, and let the command of my lips be irreversible. Hurry and quickly set your decrees for me, so that I may advance to confront your enemies. Gaga went on his way before the assembly. The gods, his fathers, prostrated themselves, touching the ground at his feet. He humbly took his seat to speak to them. Anshar, your son, has sent me here to convey the command of his heart, saying, Tiamat, who created us, hates us. She has called the assembly and is furious and enraged. All the gods have joined her, and even those you have created walk by her side. They gather and walk beside Tiamat, furious, conspiring incessantly night and day. They are ready for battle, growling and enraged. They have formed a council to prepare for combat. The mother who shapes all things has amassed unparalleled weapons. She has birthed monsters, serpents with sharp teeth and ruthless claws, filling their bodies with venom instead of blood. She has clad the terrible dragons in terror, crowning them with auras, making them equal to the gods, so that whoever beholds them perishes in terror. When they rise, no one can turn them back. She has brought forth serpents, dragons, the Lamu, great lions, rabid dogs, scorpion men, powerful lion demons, flying dragons, and centaurs that bear ruthless weapons, fearing nothing in battle. Powerful are their orders, and they are irresistible. In total, she has created 11 monsters of this kind among the gods, her firstborn, who constitute her assembly. She exalted Chingu and made him chief among them, to lead the troops and govern the assembly, to carry the weapons into attack, advancing to combat, to be the commander-in-chief in battle. She entrusted them into his hands when she made him sit in council. I have pronounced the magical formula in the assembly of the gods, exalting you. I have placed in your hands the sovereignty over all the gods. Truly, you are the supreme, my only spouse. May your exaltation be above all the Anunnaki. She has handed him the tablets of destiny and fastened them to his chest. Your commandments will not be retracted, and the word of your mouth will be firm. As soon as Chingu was exalted, acquiring the dignity of Anu among the gods, his children, he decreed destiny. The word from your mouth will extinguish the fire. The strong in combat will increase their strength. I sent Anu, and he could not confront her. Nudimmud was terrified and turned back. Then Marduk, the wisest of the gods, advanced. His heart had urged him to confront Tiamat. He opened his mouth and said to me, "If I am truly to be your avenger, and to defeat Tiamat and save your lives, call an assembly and proclaim my destiny as chief. When you sit together joyfully, let the word of my mouth determine the destinies instead of yours. Whatever I do, let it not change. Let the command of my lips be irrevocable. Hurry and quickly set your decrees for me, so that I may advance to confront your mighty enemy." When the Ilaha heard this, they shouted aloud. All the Igigi cried bitterly, "How strange that they have made this decision. We cannot fathom the actions of Tiamat." They all gathered and went. The great gods who fix the destinies entered before Anshar and filled the Ukin. They kissed each other in the assembly and conversed as they sat down for the banquet. They ate festive bread and drank wine, soaking their cups in the sweet liquor. When they had drunk the strong drink, their bodies swelled. They started to shout, and when their hearts were exalted, they fixed the destiny for Marduk, their avenger. They prepared for him a princely throne in the presence of his fathers. He sat, presiding. "O you are the most honored among the great gods. Your destiny has no rival. Your word is like Anu's. O Marduk, you are the most honored among the great gods. Your destiny has no equal. Your word is like Anu's. From this day, your word will be unchangeable." They exalted Marduk. "Authority will be in your hand. The word of your mouth will be firm. Your command will not change. None among the gods will transgress your boundaries. Being the desired adornment for the seats of the gods, may the place of their sanctuaries always be in your place. O Marduk, you are truly our avenger. We have granted you sovereignty over the entire universe. When you sit in the assembly, your word will be supreme. Your weapons will not fail. They will crush your enemies. O Lord, protect the life of the one who trusts in you, but pour out the life of the god who has conceived evil." They placed a garment in their midst and addressed Marduk, their firstborn. "Lord, your destiny is first among the gods. Decide to ruin or create, speak, and so it will be. Open your mouth and the garment will disappear. Speak again and the garment will be restored." Indeed, he spoke with his mouth, and the garment disappeared. He spoke again, and the garment was restored. When the gods, his fathers, saw the efficacy of his word, they rejoiced and paid homage. Marduk was made king. They gave him the scepter, the throne, and the staff, and they bestowed upon him the unrivaled weapon that repels enemies. "Go and take the life of Tiamat. Let the winds carry her blood to secret places." Thus, they fixed the destiny of Bel. The gods, his fathers, set him on the path of success and happiness. He made a bow and designated it as his weapon. He fitted an arrow to it and strung it. He lifted the mace and grasped it with his right hand. He hung the bow and quiver at his side and placed lightning on his forehead. He filled his body with a brilliant flame. He made a net to trap Tiamat within it. He positioned the four winds so that nothing of her could escape: the south wind, the north wind, the east wind, and the west wind. He brought the net, a gift from his father Anu, to his side. He created the evil winds, the hurricane, the tempest, the quadruple wind, the sixth wind, the cyclone, and the unmatched wind. He released the 7 winds that he had created to stir Tiamat's innards. They advanced behind him. Then the Lord stirred up the deluge storm, his powerful weapon. He mounted the storm chariot, irresistible and terrifying. He harnessed it to a team of horses, the destroyer, the relentless, the devastator, and the swift, with sharp teeth, bearing venom, skilled in pillaging, and adept in destruction. They struck, being fearsome in battle, left and right, trying to open up the way. Clad as in a garment, he wrapped himself in an armor of terror. His head was covered with a fearsome aureole. The Lord advanced, following his course towards the raging Tiamat. He directed his face towards her, and on his lips he had red paste. In his hand he held a plant that expels poison. Then the gods watched him. They beheld him. The gods, his fathers, beheld and watched him. The Lord approached to probe the innards of Tiamat and Chingu, her consort. He perceived their design. When he saw it, he stopped in his tracks. His will was distracted, and his actions were confused. When the gods, his helpers who walked at his side, saw the valiant hero, their gaze was troubled. Tiamat let out a cry without turning her neck. With her lips, she uttered a torrent of protest. "You are too important for the Lord of the gods to rise against you. Have they gathered in their sanctuary, or in your place?" Then the Lord, stirring up the deluge storm, his powerful weapon, addressed her with the following words. "You have been powerfully elevated, highly exalted. Your heart has pushed you to unleash combat so that the sons reject their own fathers, and you who have engendered them hate them. You have raised Chingu to be your consort, an authority that is not rightfully his, replacing Anu. Against Anshar, king of the gods, you plot evil against the gods, my fathers. You have confirmed your wickedness. Your army is equipped. Today gird your weapons, stand up, so that you and I may engage in single combat." Upon hearing this, Tiamat became furious, lost her reason, and in her paroxysm of fury, she screamed. She cast a spell and recited a magical formula. Meanwhile, the gods prepared for battle, sharpening their weapons. They advanced towards Marduk, wise among the gods, marching towards combat. They approached the battle. The Lord spread his net to envelop her. He released the evil wind that followed him, directing it against her face. When Tiamat opened her mouth as wide as she could, he drove the evil wind into her so that she could not close her lips. As the terrible winds filled her belly, her body was distended and her mouth was completely open. Then he released an arrow and pierced her belly, slashing her entrails and tearing her heart. After rendering her powerless, he ended her life and cast down her corpse to stand upon it. After he had killed Tiamat, the leader, her army scattered and her troops were defeated. The gods, her helpers, who walked at her side, trembled with terror, turned their backs to save their lives. But closely surrounded, they could not escape. He made them prisoners and broke their weapons. They were thrown into the net in which they were trapped, confined in cells, where they wept to their fill, suffering the punishment inflicted upon them, and were locked in the dungeon. As for the 11 creatures that Tiamat had filled with terror, the band of demons that walked before her, he cast ropes upon them, bound their hands, and despite their resistance he trampled them under his feet. And Chingu, who had been exalted as their leader, he made prisoner, and counted among the captives. He took from him the tablets of destiny, which did not belong to him, sealed them with a seal and fastened them to his chest. After he had defeated and subdued his adversaries, and had beaten down the arrogant enemy, having completely secured Anshar's victory and fulfilled the desire of Nudimmud, the valiant Marduk reinforced the imprisonment of the captive gods and turned to Tiamat, whom he had trapped. The Lord trampled on Tiamat's legs and with his merciless mace crushed her skull. When he had severed the channels of her blood, the north wind carried it to secret places. Seeing this, his fathers rejoiced, were glad, and brought him presents and gifts. Then the Lord rested, observing her corpse. He divided the monstrous flesh, conceived artistic ideas, and sliced it like a fish into 2 parts. He lifted one half and positioned it as the sky. He drew the bolt and placed a guardian, instructing him not to let the waters escape. He then traversed the heavens and inspected their regions. He stood in front of the abyss, the dwelling of Nudimmud. When the Lord measured the dimensions of the deep, he founded a palace resembling it. The Ashara, the palace of the firmament, he built like the sky, making it the dwelling place of Anu, Enlil, and Ea. He constructed a residence for the great gods, installing the constellations and the stars that are their images. He determined the year by defining its sections, establishing 3 constellations for each of the 12 months. After determining the days of the year through celestial figures, he firmly established the dwelling of Nibiru to define its celestial sections, ensuring that none were missing or misaligned. Next to it, he set up the dwellings of Enlil and Ea. Opening great doors on both sides, he reinforced the bolts on the left and the right. Inside, he placed the zenith regions, making Sin shine brightly and entrusting him with the night, assigning him the nocturnal body to determine the days. Each month, without fail, he formed a crown for him, at the beginning of the month, to shine over the land, to display his horns to determine the 6th day. On the 7th day, he would be a half-crown. On the 14th day, he would face the sun at mid-month. When the sun reached him at the base of the skies, his crown would diminish, and he would wane. As he disappeared, he would approach the sun's path, and on the 29th day he would oppose the sun again, a signal to come upon its path, approaching and determining judgment. The net that he had made was seen by the gods. They beheld the bow and saw his artistic work, the creation he had made, exalting it. Anu raised it in the assembly of the gods, kissed the bow, and designated its names. Its first name is Longwood, the second, its third name is the Star of the Bow. He set its dwelling in the heavens. After fixing the fates, he placed a throne in the heavens. After he determined the days and fixed the divisions of the night and day, taking the spittle of Tiamat, Marduk created the clouds and filled them with water. He caused the winds to arise, bringing rain and cold, making the mist smoke and piling up her venom. He assigned all these things to himself, taking them into his charge. From her head he formed the mountains and opened the deepest part of the flood, making the Euphrates and the Tigris flow from her eyes. He sealed her nostrils and formed high mountains from her udders. Inside them, he drilled springs so that wells could yield water. Twisting her tail, he tied it to the Apsû at her feet, fastening it to the heavens. Thus he covered the heavens and established the earth in the midst of Tiamat. He made his net flow, and in this way created the heavens and the earth, establishing their boundaries. When he determined their rules and formed their ordinances, he founded the sanctuaries and delivered them to her. He took the tablets of destiny that he had taken from Chingu, and bringing them as a present, greeted Anu and gave them to him. He brought the gods with whom he had fought and whom he had dispersed, bound in the presence of their fathers. Regarding the 11 creatures that Tiamat had created, whose weapons he had shattered and bound at his feet, he made statues of them and placed them over the gate of Apsû, saying, "Let this be a sign that it shall never be forgotten." When the gods saw this, they were very joyful. The Anunnaki and all their fathers approached him, and Anshar the king expressed his greeting. While seated on his throne, they presented their gifts to him with a gift from Damkina, his mother. They were made happy, and as they offered the gifts, their faces shone. Anu brought his present to a secret place, entrusted him with the chancellorship of the Apsû and the stewardship of the sanctuaries. When all the Igigi gathered, they bowed down while each of the Anunnaki kissed his feet. In his assembly to pledge obedience, they stood before him, bowed, and said, "He is the king." Afterward, the gods, his fathers, were satisfied with his charms. The following lines are mutilated, but they discuss the enthronement of Marduk with his weapons and his continuous descent. They opened their mouths to speak to the great gods, the Igigi, saying, "Previously Marduk was only our dear son, but now he is your king. Proclaim his title." They made a second speech, speaking to all, saying, "His name will be established, trust in him." When they had conferred sovereignty on Marduk, they declared in his favor a formula of good fortune and success, saying, "From now on, you will be the patron of our sanctuaries, and everything you command, we will carry out." Marduk opened his mouth to speak, to pronounce words to the gods, his fathers. Above the Apsû, you have received the counterpart of Isara, which I will build over you. I have strengthened the ground for a place of building and will construct a house, which will be my luxurious abode. And I will build a temple there, and designate cells, and establish my sovereignty. When you come up from the Apsû for the assembly, you will spend the night within it, for it is there to receive you all. When you descend from the heavens for the assembly, you will spend the night within it, for it is there to receive you all. And I will name it Babylon, which means the houses of the great gods, and I will build it with the skill of craftsmen. When the gods, his fathers, heard this speech from him, they posed the following question to Marduk, their firstborn. Regarding everything your hands have created, who will have your authority over the land? Regarding the ground that your hands have created, who will have your power in Babylon, to which you have given a beautiful name? Establish our abode there forever, that they may bring our daily ration, that no one may interrupt our tasks that we previously carried out. Marduk rejoiced upon hearing this, and responded to the gods who had questioned him. He who slew Tiamat has enlightened them. He opened his mouth. His speech was noble. The gods bowed before him and spoke to him, saying, Regarding Babylon, previously the Lord was only our beloved son, but now he is your king. Having proclaimed his title, the one whose pure enchantment gave us life, he is the Lord of splendor, of the mace and the scepter. She who knows the skill of all craftsmen prepares the plans, and we will be the workers. Tablet 6. When Marduk heard the word of the gods, his heart urged him to conceive artistic works. Opening his mouth, he addressed her to communicate the plan he had conceived in his heart. I will mix my blood and form bones. I will create man who will inhabit the earth and take charge of the worship of the gods so that they can be at ease. I will cunningly transform the ways of the gods. Though equally revered, they will be divided into two groups. Ea responded, addressing him with a word, to tell him a plan that would alleviate the gods' burdens. Let one of their brothers be given up. He alone will perish, so that mankind can be created. Let the great gods be here in the assembly. Let the guilty one be handed over so that they can remain. Marduk summoned the great gods to the assembly. Presiding benevolently, he gave instructions. The gods listened attentively. The king addressed a word to the Igigi. If your previous statement was true, you must now declare the truth under oath. Who was it that instigated the rebellion, made Tiamat rebellious, and gave battle? Let the one who instigated the rebellion be handed over. I will hold him accountable for his crime, so that you can live in peace. The Igigi, the great gods, replied to Marduk, counselor of the gods. It was Chingu who planned the rebellion, made Tiamat rebellious, and gave battle. They bound him, brought him before Marduk, held him accountable for his guilt, and separated his blood. With his blood, they created mankind. He imposed the service on mankind and left the gods free. Ea the wise created mankind, imposing upon them the service of the gods. This work was incomprehensible when cunningly planned by Marduk. Ea and Marduk created it. Marduk, the king of the gods, divided all the Anunnaki above and below. He assigned them to Anu to guard his instructions. He established 300 as guardians in the heavens. Likewise, he determined the paths of the earth, establishing 600 in the heavens and the earth. After he had given all the instructions and distributed their portions to the Anunnaki of heaven and earth, the Anunnaki opened their mouths and said to Marduk, their lord, Now that you have freed us, what homage should we pay to you? Let us build a sanctuary called, Here is a place for our nightly rest, where we can rest in it. Let us build a sanctuary, an alcove for your residence. On the day we arrive, we will rest in it. When Marduk heard this, his features glowed with a brightness like the day. He said, The pride of Babylon, whose construction you have ordered, will be made with molded bricks, and you will call it the sanctuary. The Anunnaki adapted the tools. For a whole year they molded bricks. When the second year arrived, they raised the summit of Ishara, equating it with Apsû. After they had built another step tower as high as Apsû, they established in it a dwelling for Marduk, Enlil, and Ea. In their presence, they adorned it magnificently. At the base of the Ishara, they inspected the horns. After the building of Ishara was completed, the Anunnaki raised their own sanctuaries. The Anunnaki gathered for the banquet that had been prepared for them. This is Babylon, the place of your residence. May it be blessed within its precincts, and may its wide plazas be occupied. The gods took their seats, raised the festive drink, and sat for the banquet. After they had rejoiced there in the splendid Esagila, they performed their rites, fixed the rules, and set their omens. All the gods divided the seats of heaven and earth. The 50 great gods took their seats, and the 7 gods of destiny fixed the 300 in the heavens. Enlil raised the bow, his weapon, and set it before them. The gods, his fathers, saw the net he had made. When they beheld the bow and its skillful form, his fathers praised the work he had forged. Raising it, Anu spoke in the assembly of the gods, pronouncing the following names of the bow. Long wood is the first, its third name is star bow. In the sky, he fixed its position regarding the gods, his brothers. After Anu had decreed the fate of the bow and placed the high royal throne before the gods, Anu placed it in the assembly of the gods. When the great gods had gathered, they exalted Marduk's fate and bowed down, pronouncing a curse among them, swearing by water and oil to put life in danger. When they had ensured the army of the gods' reign, when they had granted dominion over the gods of heaven and the underworld, Ansar declared his name as supreme, saying, "Let us obey when his name is pronounced, and let us pay attention to the gods he expresses, and let his sovereignty be supreme above and below." Truly exalted is the Son, his sovereignty is outstanding. May he rule over the black-headed people until the end of days. Without forgetting, they shall proclaim that he establishes for his fathers the great food offerings, provides their sustenance and guards their sanctuaries. May he bring incense to be smelled, his spells, and make a likeness on earth of what he has forged in heaven. May he command the black-headed people to revere him, so that the subjects always think of their gods and pay attention to his words. Let food offerings be brought to the goddess for their gods and goddesses, without forgetting to maintain their gods. May their countries improve, and may they build their sanctuaries. May the black-headed people trust in their gods. As for us, though he may be called by many names, he is our God. Let us proclaim his 50 names. He whose ways are glorious and whose actions are also glorious. Marduk, as Anu his father called him from his birth, who provides pasture and drink and enriches their stalls, who with the storm flood, his weapon, defeated the detractors, who rescued the gods, his fathers, from disgrace. Truly he is the son of the sun, the most radiant of the gods. In his brilliant light may they walk forever among the people. He engendered and gave life, imposed service upon the gods, so they could be at ease. Creation, destruction, liberation, and grace will be by his command. They will hold him in esteem. Marduk truly is the Creator God, who gladdens the heart of the Anunnaki and calms their spirits. Marduk is truly the refuge of the country, the protector of his people. The people will praise him. His heart is broad, his sympathy kind. Dima Ankhya is a man whom we have proclaimed in our assembly. We have exalted his commandments above those of the gods, his fathers. Truly, he is the Lord of all the gods of heaven and earth, the king whose discipline the gods fear above and below. No one, Dima Ankhya, is a man we have called the monitor of the gods, who builds for us in the heavens and on the earth, thus relieving the disturbances and distributing positions to the Igigi and the Anunnaki. Before his name, the gods will tremble and retreat in fear. As his father proclaimed in his favor, he is truly the light of the gods, the powerful chief who, as a protector, safeguards the divinities of the gods and the land. In fierce individual combat, he saved our sanctuaries in distress and saluted them. Secondly, they have called him Anshar, the God who sustains life, who restored the lost gods as they were created, the Lord who revives the dead gods by his pure enchantment, who destroys rebellious enemies. Let us praise his prowess. Anshar, whose name was pronounced thirdly, named him the bright God who illuminates our paths. The 3 names of each have been proclaimed, and the gods and their sons have declared, "We have proclaimed each of your 3 names as we have joyfully revealed their names." The gods heeded his orders. When Anu and Enlil changed their minds, they exalted the name of the heroic son, our avenger, who sustains us. They sat in assembly to proclaim the destinies, revealing all their names in the sanctuary. Tablet 7a, Masaru, who grants cultivation, who established the land of sowing, creator of grain and herbs, who makis vegetation sprout. Asaru Alim, who is honored in the house of council, whom the gods venerate and fear. Asaru Alim Nuna, the benevolent light of his father who begot him, who directs the decrees of Anu, Enlil, and Ea, their provider who assigns their portions, who multiplies their abundance. Tutu, the restorer, who purifies their sanctuaries so that they can be at ease, who formulates an enchantment so that the gods may be tranquil. If they rise with anger, he repels them. Truly, he is supreme in the assembly of the gods. None is equal among the gods. Tutu is Ziku, the life of the host of the gods, who established for the gods the brilliant heavens, who keeps a refuge over their ways, who finishes their paths, and will not be forgotten by humans who remember his deeds. Tutu, called thirdly, is Ziku, who effects purification, the god of the good wind, who listens and is benevolent, who brings forth abundance and fullness, who establishes opulence, who brings our desires to fulfillment, whose benevolent breath we have experienced in painful distress. Let them speak, exalt, and sing his praises. Fourthly, Tutu is magnified as Agaka, the lord of pure enchantment, who revives the deed, who has had mercy on the defeated gods, who has removed the yoke imposed on the gods by their enemies, and who created humanity for redemption, the merciful one in whose power is to give life. May his words remain and not depart from the mouths of the black-headed people whom his hands have created. Fifthly, Tutu is Asaluhi, whose holy enchantment their mouths will pronounce, who with his holy incantation has expelled all evils. Asaluhi, who knows the heart of the gods, who examines the inner being from whom the evildoer cannot escape, who convenes the assembly of the gods and gladdens their hearts, who subdues the rebel and is their broad protection, who directs justice, extirpates crooked speech, who guards apart in his place the unjust and the just. Let Asaluhi be exalted secondly as Suhrim, who silences the rebel, who expels consternation from the body of the gods, his fathers. Suhrim is thirdly Suhgurim, who with the weapon extirpates all enemies, who frustrates their plans and disperses them to the winds, who erases all the wicked who tremble before him. May the gods rejoice. Sazu is fourthly named as Juris, who secures the audience, creator of the gods, his fathers, who extirpates the enemies and destroys their offspring, who frustrates their actions, leaving nothing of them. May his name be expressed and pronounced in the land. Sazu is fifthly praised as Zahrum, the Lord of the living, who destroys all adversaries and rewards both good and evil, who brings all the fugitive gods back to their sanctuaries. May his name endure. Furthermore, Sazu is sixthly honored as Zaskern, who destroyed all enemies as if in a battle, the Lord who makes them flourish, the mighty one who called and instituted the toasted offerings, who always regulates the places of pasture and water for the land, who opened wells providing abundant waters. Virulo is secondly glorified as the Parandon, the Lord who sprinkles the fields, the irrigator of the heavens and the earth, who establishes furrows, making the land suitable for farming and grazing, who dams and regulates the trenches and delimits the furrows. Enbiluno is thirdly praised as Enbilugal, the one who waters the plantations of the gods, the Lord of abundance, opulence, and ample harvests, who provides wealth and enriches all dwellings, who supplies millet and makes barley appear. Enbiluno is legal, who heaps abundance for the people's consumption, who produces rich rains over the wide land and provides vegetation, who heaped a mountain upon it. Amat, who dragged with his weapon the corpse of Tiamat, who directs the land, the faithful shepherd of it, whose spear signifies a furrow, who turned in his wrath the wide Tiamat, crossing it like a bridge in the place of individual combat. Sursur is secondly called Malaga, who amasses heaps of grain, massive mounds, who brings barley and grain and provides seed for the land. Gilma, who makes the superior dwelling of the gods endure, creator of what remains. The god who maintains unity, who lends good things. Gilma the exalted, who tears the crown, who creates clouds over the waters and makes the heavens last. Tulum, who determines the fields, who grants portions and food offerings, creator of heaven and earth, the God who sanctifies heaven and earth. Secondly, in his place, no other God can oppose him by force. Chris Numona, creator of all people, who made the regions of the world, destroyer of the gods of Tiamat, who made men from his substance. Lugar Aptur, the king who frustrated the work of Tiamat, whose foundation is firm front and back. Pagalguen, the first of all lords, whose strength is outstanding, who is preeminent among the gods, his brothers lord of all of them. Lugar Durman, the king, union of the gods, lord of the Turmar, who is preeminent in the dwelling of the gods, the most exalted of the gods. Haranuna, counselor of Ea, creator of the gods, his fathers, whose princely ways no god can equal. Sumuk, whose pure dwelling is renewed in Tukutukutuku, without whom Lugar Kududu takes no decision. Lugar Anna, the king whose strength is outstanding among the gods, the lord of Anu's strength, who became supreme by Ansar's call. Luka Luka, who carried all of them in the midst of the battle, who encompasses all wisdom and broad perception, Vikingo, who took Chin at the height of the battle, who guides everyone and establishes leadership. Kim, who directs all the gods, the one who gives counsel, at whose name the gods tremble with fear like before a storm. The Cis Kurt will sit above in the house of prayer, so the gods may bring their offerings to him and receive their belongings from him. None but he can create ingenious works. 4 black heads are in his measures. Apart from him, no god knows the answer regarding his civil days. He maintains the sharp point of the weapon, who forged ingenious works in the battle against Tiamat, who has vast wisdom and is perfect in insight, whose mind is so vast that all the gods cannot fathom it. His name is Abdu, he can occupy the whole sky, and may his beneficial roars be in the sky and on the earth. May he, like Mimo, diminish the clouds and below, provide sustenance for the people. As Sharon, as his name indicates, he gave the gods the destiny of all gods. He truly is in his office. Viru will maintain the crossings of heaven and earth. Those who fail to cross up and down will be examined by Sine. Virus is the star that is bright in the heavens. He truly governs their orbits, and to him they indeed look, saying, "He who crosses ceaselessly the middle of the sea, who controls its middle, shall be called Crossing." May he maintain the course of the stars in the sky. May he shepherd all the gods as if they were a flock. May he defeat Tiamat, and may her life be tight and short in the future of humanity when the days have grown old. May she recede ceaselessly and remain far away forever, for he created the spaces and molded the solid earth. The father Enlil gave him the name Lord of the Lands. When all the names that the Igigi proclaimed reached his ears, his spirit rejoiced. Thus he whose name his fathers have glorified is truly as much as I. His name shall be over all my combined rights. He will administer and carry out all my instructions. With the title of 50, the great gods proclaimed him, whose names are 50, and declared his path as supreme. Epilogue, may there be memory of them, and let the first explain them. May the wise and the expert reflect together. Let the father recite them, and make the son retain them. May the ears of the shepherd and the livestock guardian be opened, and may he rejoice in Marduk, the lord of the gods, to make his land fertile and his word prosper. His word is stable, his command does not change. The word from his mouth will not change. When he looks, he does not turn his neck. When he is angry, no god can withstand his wrath. His heart is vast and his intelligence broad. The sinner and the guilty will be confused before him. The teaching that the first has proclaimed in his presence, he wrote down and thus kept for the future. The dwelling of Marduk that the gods, the Igigi, had made, may it speak of them, the song of Marduk who defeated Tiamat and achieved the reign.